What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're here with some more NFL DFS picks and lineup advice. This time for this Saturday three-game slate, classic FanDuel DraftKings, December 17th. And it's December, which means more short slates, more Saturday slates, which also means more time for Jack from DFS Magic. Jack, what's up, man?
Hey Brian, how's it going? Just have to, call out that I'm taking this from my car at work, dedicated to the craft. I would not have missed a short slate video with you for the world. So here we are, run again. And yeah, once again, Josh Allen is on the slate. I just have to put that out there every time,
Dude,
Josh Allen.
every goddamn time, dude. It's unbelievable. It's actually remarkable, but we appreciate your dedication. I know everyone watching this appreciates your dedication to the craft. Yeah, when you answer the call, I was like, well, Jack's in the car, and we're gonna make this work. So you guys know me. I'm Brian from Occupy Fantasy, and what we're gonna do here, 10-15 minute video, pretty quick overview of how to attack this three-gamer on FanDuel and DraftKings low risk and high risk perspectives. Our Occupy model and lineup builder is up and running. It has the projected ownership for the slate. There is no daily plug for this slate, but Chris put some notes in our Discord server, and obviously we have this video to help serve you in addition to the strategy guide and everything else we have at Occupy Fantasy. So, Jack, let's just get started. And from a high-level overview, we talk about this every time that we get together for these short slates. General strategy for three gamers, and briefly, because we've talked about this so many times, but briefly, what do we expect to do, and maybe specifically on this slate, what do we expect?
Yeah, so I think the three gamer is my favorite one. I don't know about you, but I think like the two gamers, you want to overstack, right? Stack, stack, stack. The field doesn't do it enough. Four-man stacks. DraftKings, you can do five-man stacks. Multiple players from the opposite team. The cool thing about the three gamer, I think, is you get a little less chaos, like stuff like players against defense or quarterback against defense, or like four players from an opposing team. Like you can start to more defensively eliminate some of those like super crazy builds, and you don't spend as much time saying like, oh, should I block this or allow this? I don't know what you think, but I feel like the three gamer is the sweet spot where like you can overstack a game, but like you don't have to go nuts, and you can kind of let some of those structured things come back into play.
Yeah, I think so too. Once we get to four gamers, that's when we really start to eliminate those crazy wonky outliers. Three game, I'll allow it some, but again, specific rules that you want to set. But it all comes down to overstacking. Even if stacking hasn't been as profitable this year on the main slate, on shorter slates, it's still extremely profitable because we know the field's not going to do enough, especially once we get into this first game. Before we start to talk about the individual game environments, Jack, I guess we should bring up the injuries really quickly. Unfortunately, there's not that many. This Indian Minnesota game, nothing too impactful. I guess the biggest thing is Christian Darrisaw is expected back, who is one of the better defense or offensive tackles in the league, and certainly they struggled allowing pressure without him in the lineup.
That's for once we don't have to be stressing out about late swapping too many guys. There's one we'll get to with the Miami running backs, but other than that, it should be pretty straightforward from the injury standpoint.
I think so too. And in Baltimore, Tyler Huntley will be the starting quarterback. He cleared the concussion protocol. Lamar Jackson remains out. All the receivers and running backs are still in play there. Cleveland side, if you want to get super freaky, wide receiver three, David Bell, is probably going to be out. I think he's already been officially ruled out by a national reporter. So if you want to figure out who's Cleveland's wide receiver three is, you can go for that. But Jack, like you mentioned, the most impactful injury is the running back situation for Miami. Jeff Wilson, officially questionable. So last week's game, left at halftime with that hip injury, did not return. Didn't practice Monday or Tuesday or whatever 2 days this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, whatever the hell the days are. And it looked ominous, but he did return to practice, what is it, Thursday, the final practice of the week. Was cleared to talk to reporters, so he's going to try to give it a go if the team clears him and all that. If he's out, obviously, though, Jack, that is a big boost for Raheem Mostert. It might be a big boost anyways, but as of right now, on Friday afternoon at, 6 p.m. when we're recording this, it's unclear who's going to be the starter. And if they're both in, it makes it super unclear.
Yeah, and so I'm just looking at, I think the key there is pricing it. We're lucky that Wilson, at least on DraftKings, is only 100 more, right? So probably I'm curious what you do. The safe way to me would be, maybe just build all of your allocation to Miami running backs with Wilson. If he's out, easy global swap to Mostert. If he's in, then you can go look through your lineups and make some hand swaps and kind of divide up your best lineups.
That's probably the best move. Hopefully, we get an overnight report or maybe not, hopefully, depending on your risk reward tolerance. But yeah, we'll see. I think, and again, ownership's going to be tough too. We're not going to, we have right now, we have Mostert projected higher just because of the uncertainty around Wilson's availability, but that could easily change. So make sure you check back tomorrow at least for that update. All right, Jack, that does it for the injuries and whatnot. Let's talk about the game environments. And from a high level, I think when looking at this, it may have been surprising to most, at least it was to me initially, that this Indy Minnesota game is going to be the most popular game stack. It's going to have the most popular players. But then when you take a step back and you look at it, this game actually has the highest projected game total on the slate at 47 points. And the Miami Buffalo game is expected to get wind and snow, and the field's picking up on that. Plus the pricing of the Miami and Buffalo players. So as you and I were talking right before the show started, I'm not sure how Kirk Cousins chalk is ever good, but that's what's going to be the case on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, his price is just like laughable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's literally priced the same on DraftKings as he's 6K. I mean, Tyler Huntley's 5,300, Matt Ryan's 52, Watson's 63, Tua 66. So I mean, he's basically priced as almost as bad as those horrible quarterbacks. So and, we know something you point out time and again that there are not a lot of teams this year that predictably throw the ball, and Minnesota is one of them. They throw the ball over the expected rate, and that's really good for fantasy, right? So unfortunately, the field is picking up on that, and like you said, that this game does have the highest game total, team totals, and usually on these short slates, we see people gravitate there. So the question then is, if you're going to play this game, how do you do it, right?
Yeah, and I think there's two clear ways to do it. And if you're playing cash, low risk, small field contest, you can normally stack Minnesota. Play the guys that pop in the model, have high ownership. That's totally fine. Where you want to get different, even in small field, you can, if you want to get different and play this game, or in large field especially, I think, Jack, the two options, I'm curious to get what your thoughts on what is the superior option, is overstack Minnesota. So let's say we play Kirk Cousins, we play Justin Jefferson, we play Thielen, and we rounded out with TJ Hawkinson. That's one option. I guess there's three options really. Play four plus guys from Minnesota. Second option, bring it back with at least two Colts, because the majority of people who stack Minnesota will probably either naked stack them or bring it back with just one Colt. You bring two plus, that's going to be different, and it gives you extra correlation on this smaller slate. The third option, and the riskier option, is to not stack them and stack the other side. Stack Indy, Matt Ryan, Pittman, Pierce, Paris Campbell, one of the tight ends, right? And then running back with Minnesota players. So lots of options to get different. I actually like all three.
You know what? I do too. I don't know that I could clearly pick out one to go with. Maybe if I was playing small field, I might just eat the Cousins chalk and get different by playing an extra Colt or a fourth Viking. But for mass multi-entry, I think you go with all three of those. I think the indie pricing is really advantageous and would allow you to play like the Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook guys coming back. Would you four stack Indy, Brian, or do you think a three stack is enough, or would you even consider some just 2-man stacks with Indy on the slate?
I think it's the price, right? The fact that they are so cheap means you can four stack them. If they were expensive and didn't have a ton of upside, like a Matt Ryan led offense in 2022 seems to not have, then I think it would be more difficult. But the fact that you get Michael Pittman, their wide receiver, one at 5,800 on DraftKings, you get Campbell and Pierce sub 5K, you get the tight ends who are in the 2Ks, and Matt Ryan himself is only 5,200. If let's just say he goes for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is possible in this matchup, multiple guys are going to hit value on that offense. So I think you can four stack them, and not a soul is going to four stack Indy stacks.
I totally agree. And this slate has some pretty elite target Harry Hog players. Hill, Diggs, Taylor, Jefferson, Cook, Pittman, Chubb, Waddle. Those are all guys that can have games where they get double-digit targets or 20 carries. So playing that cheap Matt Ryan stack allows you to jam multiple super expensive studs in the lineup, and that's another way to get unique. Because if someone playing a stack or a Josh Allen or something, he's not going to be able to do that.
And honestly, that's even a higher floor approach in small field contests too, right? You might not think of it playing Matt Ryan. You may think it's really risky, but if you play Matt Ryan, who has a high floor ceiling in this matchup, and you raise the rest of your floor by being able to play one more of those studs than you would if you played Allen or if you played Cousins. So I like that call. Let's go to the second. Actually, I want to skip the second game and go to the third game, because the third game is the biggest leverage spot and the biggest decision point that we have to make on the slate, and it's Miami and Buffalo. Jack, as of now, the weather is calling for up to 10 inches of snow, 25-mile-per-hour gusts, but the timing is uncertain. And if there is a team that's ever built to play in the snow, it's this hybrid. I think someone on Twitter called him a Yeti quarterback in Josh Allen, right? If there's a guy you want to play in these conditions and succeed, it is Josh Allen. But I'm really curious to get your thoughts because on the surface, the total has dropped a point so far. I was waiting for that shoe to drop, that other shoe to drop. So the total is starting to drop here. But it's the rare case where we don't have Josh Allen and Diggs and Tyreek as the most popular players at their position on a short slate, which is something we have to take advantage of, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the ownership, and I am really having a hard time not just shoving in on that late game. I mean, so let's be clear, right? Like we've all looked at weather reports and then gotten mad that like they're totally wrong, right? We don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow night. Like if you look, it says it's going to snow really heavy with high winds, and then it's eventually going to turn into rain with lower winds. That could happen at like 2 a.m. or 6 p.m., right? So there's a very wide range of outcomes, and the field is sort of going all in on the outcome of it's a blizzard, no one's going to score any points. So it's super risky, right? It's super risky. You could stack this game up, and it could be a horrible game, and you could DFL all of your contests. But like you said, Josh Allen 25% owned on DraftKings, Diggs, Hill in like the 20 to 30%. I mean, usually those players on these slates would be like 50% owned. So
50 to 70,
um,
right?
yeah.
The
Oh yeah.
receivers.
I think
So,
we saw Diggs at 60% on a slate earlier this year on like a two gamer.
yep.
So the question is, if you play this game, Brian, do you still overstack it? Do you think you just sort of play optimally, like 3 by 1 kind of thing, and just because that's already unique? Like, what are your thoughts on ways to play the game if you do it?
Yeah, that's the interesting question because I still think you can, right? Like if you play Josh Allen, really, because if someone does play Josh Allen, we've seen it before, he gets understacked more than he gets overstacked. We end up losing on Josh Allen short slates when he rushes for a touchdown. 1 to 2 bills are optimal, right? That's how we lose. When we win Josh Allen slates and we play him, it's when he doesn't really get there on the ground and he's getting there through the air and multiple bills, pass catchers, and running backs are brought along with him into the optimal lineup. You're playing Allen with Singletary or Cook. You're playing Diggs and Davis. You're playing Knox with him, right? And another player from the opposing offense gets there as well. So I think you still have to overstack it just based on what we know historically wins and loses these types of slates when Josh Allen's on it, and God knows we have enough sample size to know what to do. So I still think you have to do it. What about the Tua side though? Like even if it's cold and rainy, that's fine for Josh Allen. That might not be great for South Florida Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean that's a narrative thing, and I don't honestly know how true it is. In my head, I'm thinking like those are run after catch receivers, but I must confess, I probably should look. Or maybe or we can look, but like the A dot of that offense, like are they a deep passing offense, or are they throwing a lot of short stuff, or any? Because I mean, to me, that would be a pretty significant part of that decision.
If I'm not mistaken, and I very well could be, anyone in the comments can fact check us. I think they're more of a mid range. Tua is not throwing a lot near the line of scrimmage. A lot of his mid range, 8 to 15 yards in that intermediate area, which is not as bad as if they were exclusively throwing deep shots. But if it's windy and rainy, it's not the best style of offense, right?
I'll be honest. This is the highest risk play on the slate probably, but I just for sub 10% guy that has been chalk on main slates, he's throwing to two elite weapons. Like I'm taking a shot on it over more than the field will, just purely game theory upside. No, it's just I think I can't not do it. I can't not do it, Brian.
That's fair. And I think this decision I'm making myself is in my 150. Am I going to include Tua? I'm just going to get overweight on everyone else. But like you said, 7% ownership. It doesn't take much to get overweight. And again, the fact that he can be elevated by a Tyreek 80-yarder or a Waddle 70-yarder, that certainly raises his ranges of outcomes. So I get it. Anything else on this game before we move on to the final game?
Well, and the final thing, I think the other key thing to making Josh Allen unique is just like the Indy Minnesota is play a Dolphin, right? I mean, if Allen's going to go, hopefully like any other game, he's being pushed. And these Miami ownerships are just crazy low, except for the running back. But any of these wide receivers, like you just said, they could hit an 80-yard play and be optimal. So play the Dolphin, or two is super risky. But yeah, I think we hit that one.
All right, and moving on to the game that no one wants to play at all, which means it's probably the game we should be considering the most, is this Baltimore and Cleveland game. Huntley getting the start at quarterback. Deshaun, who has been absolutely miserable in the 2 games since he's returned from his suspension. But that's intriguing to me, Jack, when we have super low ownership on these guys. Huntley can run. Deshaun has run in the past. Maybe he knocks some of the rust off. So cheap weapons to pair with them. No one's going to play Amari Cooper. No one's going to play Njoku, really. No one's playing the Baltimore receivers. So it goes virtually unowned. And I guess the way this wins is they could go off, right? That's possible. But even if they perform just relatively well, Miami Buffalo gets snowed in. Indy Minnesota disappoints because it's Indy and Kirk Cousins, right? Like that's how it wins probably. And I think you have to play at least some large field lineups with these quarterbacks. And this is a game where I think you don't have to stack as much because not anyone's going to be touching it.
Yeah, totally agree. You hit it. If kind of everything goes to median outcomes, like this game has a great chance to hit. We have 2 underperforming receivers on the Browns, which looks good, and then it may also tell you that the quarterback's not playing well. We know he's not, but
Yeah.
he's played at such a high level before. Is it worth an 8% owned guy that to take a shot on a ceiling outcome? How do you play Huntley? He's a struggle one for me because he's a running quarterback. He's super cheap. I would expect the field would generally be playing him naked or with maybe only one pass catcher and just jamming, all the
Yes.
expensive guys. Like, do you just play it that way? Do you try to overstack him? What are your thoughts on how to play Huntley?
Yeah, and it goes back to the Minnesota conversation too, right? You either play one more than the field is expecting, so you play 2 players with him, Mark Andrews and Demarcus Robinson. Or one of the ways I like playing it is playing him with a running back too. Just hope Baltimore scores 28, 30 points, and you get all the scoring through Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards, or you play Demarcus Robinson, or just what we said with the Minnesota Indy game is you just play 2 Browns coming back with them, and no one's going to play that. And that's certainly different, and a correlation it works. So you play Huntley and Andrews running back with Chubb and Amari, Chubb and DPJ or something, and I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, that works really well. I think you're right. You could even just play a 2-man stack with 2 Browns, and people are not going to use that. So totally agree.
Cool. All right, so that'll do it for the show. Jack, any final questions on this 3-gamer? Again, we're going to be seeing a lot of your face here over the next few weeks, as we normally do with these short slates through December and January. But any final thoughts on this slate?
I think we always do this. So if you had to fade a chalk player or go way under the field, who would it be? And then favorite, we'll say sub 15, 10% owned a player on the slate.
All right, I'm looking, and this is the craziest thing. I brought up the builder, and I'm sorting my ownership in the flex spot. And the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys are from Minnesota and Indy, which is insane. Uh, I guess T.J. Hawkinson would be the one I would fade the most. He's 50%. He's a tight end, and he's not Travis Kelce. So I would probably be fading Hawkinson in that if I had to choose one of these guys to fade.
Yeah, you stole the best one for sure. But I won't just say the same one. But to me, I think Dalvin Cook at 50%. I mean, his price is pretty good on DraftKings, but he hasn't been catching a lot of passes. I don't know. It seems like a spot where there's some like James Cook. Some of the Miami running backs are quite a bit cheaper. It just seems like a spot where he really needs to like have a ceiling outcome to hit. And I don't know that I would stack Dalvin and Kirk for one example. And of course, he'll probably catch a 90-yard screen pass since I said this. But
Right.
okay.
Right. Okay.
Then what do we got for the trash?
Sub 20%. Sub 20%. Decent amount of place here. I mean, I like Alec Pierce from that early game. He's sub 20%. We have projected, but I think my favorite is probably. I mean, so if you're not scared of the snow or you're playing the anti-snow angle, Jalen Waddle, no one wants to touch him. He hasn't done much. He's an underperforming wide receiver, and he's 13%. At 7K, he's tough to get to, so I understand. But I think Waddle at 13% can have 10 for 100 even in a snow game, right, in short passes. So I think Waddle's my favorite sub 20, and he even qualifies as sub 15.
You stole mine again.
All right,
I'm
we're
gonna
on the
copy
same
it.
page. All right, we're on the same page
That's
then.
the play. I mean, it just sticks out. That dude is an elite player. Like, there's no reason he would be 35% owned if there wasn't snow. So, yeah, it's got to be him. It is a little thin down here. There's a lot of pretty bad players in the sub 15% on this slate, but
There is, but you have
um,
to include at least one, right? At least one in these larger contests. So
yeah, we neglected to mention that. Definitely always want to include at least one, sub 20% owned player in your lineups.
for sure. All right, so that'll do it for the video. We appreciate you all tuning in as always. Busy weekend with Saturday games, Sunday games. Christmas next week. The Sunday slate moves to Saturday, and we have a short slate on Sunday for the Christmas Eve. Crazy schedule. Just stay tuned. Join our Discord server. Follow us on Twitter for all the up-to-date information. If you like what you saw here, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Get notified when we go live. Upload these videos throughout the rest of the winter. And any questions, comment on here on this video. I'll monitor it until the slate starts at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Discord's the best way to get in touch with us. And if you like the tools and you like what we've had to say, check out OccupyFantasy.com, the lineup builder, as well as our other tools to get you right for NFL DFS. So Brian and Jack from DFS Magic and Occupy Fantasy, thanks for listening.